Hi, Mike Matchett with Small World Big Data. We are here with a really interesting concept, which is software-defined block storage. I've got StorPool today. I've got their CEO, Boyan Ivanoff, and we are going to talk about how software-defined has now, and they've been doing it for a while, gotten block storage up to this hyperscaler kind of quality solution that really outdoes what? Arrays, flash arrays, SANs, everything else. All sorts of cool stuff coming out of StorPool. Welcome, Boyan. Uh, Tell me a little bit about StorPool. When did StorPool get started?
Thanks for having me. Well, we started in the very end of 2011. We had a couple of companies back then, and one of them was doing something that's now called software-defined networking, or early versions of it. We went to market with that solution, but the market told us, our number one problem is storage. It's too expensive, hard to scale, it's slow, it's very hard to manage. And we said, okay, that's, if we do it with software and replace SANs with software running on standard hardware, that should be the way to go. And that's before software-defined storage existed as a concept and as a buzzword.
So you guys were doing this before there was a software-defined thing. You were saying there's got to be a way to take a lot of these features and put them out there in a way that we can put them on any system, on any machine, basically converge them before there was even this idea of hyperconvergence, which is pretty cool. In this is coming not out of Silicon Valley. I mean, you guys are somewhere else. Where are you coming from?
We're coming from Sofia, Bulgaria, so in Europe. And believe it or not, actually, a lot of storage innovation is done in our region. So it's done in Israel, and Bulgaria is also a strong hub with very strong engineers. And a lot of technologies then kind of like commercialized in the US.
So that's really great because we talked about the fact that a lot of what comes out of Silicon Valley actually came from elsewhere, and they've just got the sort of the marketing presence and the sales presence in the Valley nowadays. So let's talk specifically about what StorPool does. It's software-defined block storage. It's designed for the largest of scalers, the cloud infrastructures and the really fast clouds. What if I lift up the hood just a little bit? What am I going to see when I look at what's there that's in the StorPool product?
So basically, it appears like a SAN when you install it. It's installed on standard servers. It will appear as a SAN to the user, but it's basically running on commodity hardware. It can run on top of the same servers that you use for running applications, so in a hyper-converged manner. But it will simplify things, it will accelerate things, and it will make them more robust. So it would simplify because you don't need a fiber channel network. It's all standard Ethernet, both front and back end. It's going to accelerate things because it's extremely capable in terms of latency and performance. And you're talking about 100 microseconds or less of latency and millions of IOPS. And it's going to be more reliable because of the highly sophisticated algorithms for distributing data and managing the data and the replication between the nodes and the two interfaces on every server that adds up and adds up. So a lot of engineering that went around.
I would say quite a lot of engineering. This isn't just a some little virtual machine running somewhere like a big company we know that has a hypervisor made. This has got all sorts of engineering marvels in it from one end to the other that you have stacked and stacked and sequenced. And the end result of the performance of this, which is sort of amazing when you can say, I can give faster latency than a local SSD. And I was like, oh, how are you doing that? Right? And it's like you've got so much magic under the hood. And you mentioned this scales as well. How does this? How big does it scale to, and still give this kind of performance?
So basically, it scales more or less linearly, and the typical deployment of StorPool is like several petabytes. Like it's just powerful solution for mid-size and larger clouds. If you have, let's say, less than 100 terabytes of data, it's not even the best solution on the market. There are small scale solutions, and then it scales. We have, I think, the larger clouds that we've got in single system is like 5-10 petabytes, and then you do clusters of clusters, like I think it's mostly policy driven kind of for availability zones and things like that, but it scales pretty well.
All right. And what's interesting to me also when we were talking earlier is that you're not just looking at this high-end performance and this high-end scale, but because of the way it's been written and because of what it does, it can serve out storage needs from the fastest SSD, NVMe types of requirements the applications might have, down to doing backup for folks, the hard drive backup. Explain how you get that into the same solution.
Yeah, so I think historically we started with in 2011, the very end of 2011, where SSDs were very less available, very expensive, hard to get your hands on. So we have a lot of magic and development in the HDD space, and we've always focused on delivering the fastest storage systems in the world. But as time went on, we had this IP and development, and a lot of our customers said we're NVMe or SSD all the way, but then we want to do backups, and can we use your technology? We said, yeah, the technology is there. They said we're going to be deploying it on HDD to reduce the cost, and it's kind of that happened as a byproduct of the constant cycle of innovation.
So you got backed into doing backup as well, which is kind of cool, because that unifies someone's storage and simplifies their storage service structure quite a bit. That you can also do the sort of more capacity storage as well. But let's talk about that performance end of things. Just what kind of workloads really make best use of that StorPool performance? Where do you see people really gaining most benefit from it?
It's usually demanding applications of any type. So if you think online banking software, VDI, larger development environments or virtualized environments, test dev environments where time is money, anything that you need to kind of reduce the compile time, and you have, let's say, 100 or 1,000 developers, and instead of them waiting for 4 hours for a system to compile, that thing is way faster, especially when it's storage kind of bottlenecked. Any web app, and there was a very interesting study by Financial Times about how latency impacts their cash flow. Very interesting, and every second delay it costs them millions. And if you have a fast storage system, that basically translates in more revenue. So all types of applications, because in most applications or in any application you have a database and it's very latency sensitive, and a very good fit for StorPool. If it's large, then that's a good case.
All right, so the old days, we might have had to call up our favorite big storage vendors, roll in a lot of hardware. If we wanted to scale, we had to roll in another rack of stuff and keep up to date that way.
Oh, don't forget the forklift.
The forklift. But if I'm a bank these days and I say, well, I really want to consume high-end, faster than local SSD storage, block storage, I can now do it in a cloud utility manner using StorPool, whether I'm doing it in myself out of my own private cloud or from a service provider who's got StorPool running, right? So this is this, and you've got some comparisons with some of the other public cloud providers, and you're certainly beating them. How much are you beating some of the local guys or the big cloud providers by?
That obviously depends on the specific use case and the type of system that you compare, and the type of workload that you run. But in some cases, we're 10 times faster than the large public clouds like.
I mean, we could say names here. We could say names here, right? But
say, okay, well, if like to AWS and Azure and GCP, in some use cases, we're like 10 times faster than them.
Running in their clouds, and you're running in their clouds, and you're 10 times faster than their storage services. Just to be clear.
Correct. Correct. Yeah. They're similar storage service, right? The block storage service in specific. Right, with so industry standard tests, like you do
sure.
PostgreSQL benchmark, for example, and you're measuring performance, latency, price performance as well.
All right, so those are cool things. And I just want to mention here, we're running a little bit out of time, but it doesn't stop with just that performance. It's not just a technical solution. You've got a lot of data management features in there. Can you give us just a real brief overview of what kinds of data management features are that maybe the other people don't have?
I think a lot of them are available in different products, but to get them all in one product, it's tough. And in most vendors, they're in different product lines. But this system is designed for scale and automation. So API first is a big thing. And then you have quality of service, snapshots and clones. You have backup and disaster recovery that are built into the system. and you have very sophisticated monitoring, very sophisticated alarms for anything that might go out of bounds in the system. So a lot of functionality around that.
And data integrity is a big thing with you as well.
Data integrity is especially critical, and people don't even realize it, because the moment that you're running a software-defined distributed system at scale, these things are complex. And if you don't have a very, very sophisticated data integrity end-to-end system, which most companies just don't, most products, they're in trouble. The larger it becomes, the more risk that you're taking, and that's a big one. But it's kind of like, we call it feature number 0, right? People expect the storage systems are very robust, and some are and some are not. But that people take it for granted. So data integrity is a top concern when choosing a system.
I mean, I also saw that fully managed remote support is a thing you guys mostly do for your customers, generally large customers. So you're taking care of the systems for them, and it's more utility pricing models, which is what everyone's comfortable with these days. So good stuff. Just one last thing here, Boyan, and that is, if someone wants to learn more about StorPool or getting their access to StorPool storage services from one of your customers, what would you have them look at?
They should check out our website at storpool.com. I think you can see it here on the banner.
Yeah.
And that's the best starting point.
All right. So guys, check that out. Storpool.com. Software-defined block storage, high performance, high scale, lots of data management features. It's a brave new world out there for storage. Take care and check it out.